So my name is Serge Perino. I'm a petroleum engineer, and most of my career was made in chemicals. And in the last 10 years or 12 years, I've been involved in the conversion of low-value hydrocarbon, such as coal, petroleum coke, to higher-value hydrocarbons, which are fuels, the methanol, the petrochemicals from methanol and natural gas. So thank you for this kind of introduction. In the last 2 days, you have heard about CCS, and the left part of the audience have heard about CCS for 15 years, 20 years, and 15 years ago, I think that everyone expected CCS to go much faster than it has done. And so there is some, I would say, disappointment in the speed of development of CCS. What is the reason why CCS is so slow? Do you have an idea?
The cost.
The cost, yeah, that's right. The cost. And so I'm going to develop about the cost to see where most of the cost is, and we're going to see that coal conversion or carbon conversion is an opportunity to have CCS with lower cost. So we're going to start from the value chain of CCS. Then I will introduce coal 2X or carbon 2X, and then we'll see how CCS and coal 2X can be associated for lower cost, and we will see a case study at the end. First, the value chain of CCS. So this is a chart that was shown by Bima on the first day. So this is the total value chain of CCS in the case of post-combustion. And you see here the last stage of CCS is storage and monitoring of the carbon storage. And that accounts for around 30% of the cost. Before that, you need to compress the carbon dioxide and transport it. Here the cost is 14%. So you see that the main part of the cost is capture, 73%. So we need to work on that. Of course, we need to work on anything. And why is it expensive? Why is it so expensive to capture CO2? Question. The answer is that in the feedstock where you have the CO2 that you want to capture, you have something like 70% nitrogen, maybe 10% water, and only 10 to 15% CO2. And the advantage of the coal-to-X processes is that the first step, is to remove nitrogen from the process. So in fact, as I said before, instead of having 70% nitrogen in the gas from where you want to capture your CO2, you have zero nitrogen. So of course, that helps decreasing the cost. So now let me explain what is coal-to-X and why it makes sense to develop this kind of processes. So the first reason for converting coal to higher value hydrocarbons is that in many areas in the world, you have a lot of carbon resources, but low gas, low oil resources or reserves. And that's the case in the fastest developing area in the world, Asia Pacific, where you see, so these figures are the division between reserves and yearly consumption. So you have something like 100 years of coal reserves, 24 years of gas, and 4 years of petroleum. This is one reason. So this is one reason for which China is very, very interested in converting coal, because their need for oil and gas are growing very fast. Second is a logistic reason. In many areas, for example, in Russia, Russia is the first exporter of oil, but you have parts of Russia where you have no oil and you have coal. So transporting oil from the oil fields to these kind of regions where you have coal would be expensive, so better to convert coal. Last reason is economics. That shows figures which are a bit remote, but you can see the difference of either added value or revenue that you can get from coal by producing products, by producing something different from power. So this is power, and this is DME, methanol, gasoline, and so on. There are several processes. So in Europe, we don't know very well this process, and sometimes we don't even know that they exist. And compared to 10 years ago, the situation is that most of the processes are now mature. So let's see the different types of processes. You have two types of processes. One is indirect, one is direct. Let's start with indirect. Let's call it direct because the first step is to gasify coal and to produce synthetic gas or syngas, which has been talked about earlier this morning. So this synthetic gas or syngas is a mixture of CO and hydrogen, and from this you can synthesize several chemicals. So one is so-called methanation. So then you produce methane out of this syngas, and this process has been applied in the US for more than 30 years, and in China for let's say 7-8 years. So here the output is natural gas. Second is Fischer-Tropsch, so still from syngas, and this Fischer-Tropsch process has been applied in South Africa for almost 40 years, and in China for 8 years. So from that you can get naphtha and diesel, and you refine it, and then you get liquid fuels. Another output from synthetic gas is methanol. And from methanol, we have a process which has been developed by ExxonMobil and applied in China for 8 years. And so the process is called methanol to gasoline, and you produce 84% gasoline, and the economics are quite good. And you can produce. The advantage of this process is that it can be operated in rather small capacities. Here and from methanol, you can produce all sorts of chemicals. All the petrochemicals that are usually produced from methanol. And that has been applied in South Africa for 20 years, or around 20 years, and in China for 8 years. You can produce also, you can select hydrogen and produce urea and fertilizers. That is very popular in India, in the US, and now in China as well. So this is the most popular route. Now another one is consists in producing directly fuels from coal. For that, the process looks simple like that, but it's quite complex. The principle is that you dilute the powder of coal into a recycled liquid and you add hydrogen. So that needs high pressure, high temperature, and that has been operated for 9 years now in China. And the Chinese plan to triple the capacity of this plant. So that was a short introduction on the processes. Now economics. We start the presentation with economics, so it is important to study. So the main problem in this industry is that it is very capital intensive. So here we have plotted all points that we got from the industry and from the conferences that we organize. And you can see that as a rule of thumb, you can consider $100,000 per daily barrel produced. Let's say that for a medium, small size of a refinery, for example, 200,000 barrels per day, for that case, the investment to produce the same quantity of fuels, the investment is $20 billion. So in coal to X, you always talk about $1 billion. Now, of course, in terms of economics, it's important to see how the fuels produced from coal compete with the crude oil that you can get on the market. And also, we have plotted several points from 2008 to 2017. And here you can see the yearly average price of crude oil. And so you can see that if you are here, your cost is higher than the price of crude oil. So when you see the investment and when you see the amount that you need to risk to build a plant, you understand that the industry is quite reluctant to invest. However, in China, here you see the cost reported by 4 Chinese companies last year. So you see that they are break-even. That their cost is around $55 per barrel. So today, when the barrel is around $65, $70, you see that they are making money. So although the investment is high and quite risky, this industry is still developing, especially in Asia. And you can see here the operations in China. The biggest project is in India, in Jamnagar, where that is for treating petroleum coke, and that will be the largest gasification plant in the world. As I said, it started decades ago in South Africa, and there is also an operation in South Korea. In China, it is increasing impressively. You can see here not only the forecast, because forecasts are often high, but here you see the historical data. This is for coal to olefins. And I have a few other examples. This is for coal to liquids. You see the ramping, the trend is really impressive. Coal to monoethanol glycol. It's also really increasing. We are talking about doubling in 2 or 3 years, and it's still increasing. And last is methane, where they faced some difficulties here in the last years, but now it is increasing for sure. Worldwide, you have today 44 operations and 116 million tons are engaged. And this is these are the projects that we selected as being real projects, and you can see that 50% more. I mean, these are for 44 operations, you have 66 projects, and for 116 million tons engaged, you have 168 million tons engaged more. Now, let's come back to the subject of my presentation, so coal to X and CCS. The problem with coal to X is that it produces CO2, and here I would like to introduce the notion of well-to-wheels. Well-to-wheels analysis is a concept that makes a full of sense. It's a calculation. You calculate the whole production of CO2 from the well, if you talk about oil, to the wheels of the car. So from the beginning to the end of the life of the product, including refining, transportation, and so on. So here you have a comparison between the well-to-wheels emission for a diesel which is produced from crude oil, so around 3 kilos of CO2 per liter of diesel fuel. And here you have the same for coal-to-liquid diesel, so diesel produced from coal without CCS. And you see that the production of CO2 is 70% more. So that's very difficult for this industry. Why that? Because we have two drawbacks. One, coal has the highest carbon to hydrogen ratio among all fossil fuels. It is 1:1 for methane, CH4, and for methane, the ratio is 1:4. So of course, for the given amount of energy, we will burn more CO2 carbon compared to hydrogen with coal. And in addition to that, the second drawback is that in the coal-to-X process, there is a consumption of energy, and as long as this energy comes from coal, it comes from fossil, so there is a production of CO2. So that explains that without CCS, the production of CO2 is really high compared to conventional diesel. So now if we add CCS, you see, so the first two bars are the same as in the previous slide, and here with CCS you reach minus 11%, let's say you reach the same, almost the same emission of CO2 on the well-to-wheels. We can even get better results if you combine biomass with coal. And here you have two other cases. This is the bar you showed before, so minus 11%. If you, in the case of a diesel produced from coal without CCS but with 38% biomass, then we are in the same range. And of course, if we apply CCS and in addition to that we add biomass, so you can have a significant improvement compared to conventional diesel. So this is the case of CCS and 20% biomass, and this is CCS with 38% biomass. I'm not saying that it's easy, but a lot of research is being made on combining biomass to coal. So in our case, if it's quite easy to apply CCS to coal-to-X for the reason I said in the beginning. So we have no nitrogen in our process, and this is so in terms of cost, this bar chart has been prepared by Enea. I think our next speaker can comment it. You see here the difference between the cost of methane without CCS and with CCS. So we are talking about less than 10% addition. So you can think that it is very relevant by the industry. So now I would like to show a case study. It's a case study in North America, where you have the production of methane from coal in North Dakota, in the US, and of course it produces CO2, and this CO2 is transported by pipe to Canada, where it is used for enhanced oil recovery. So this is the plant where CO2 is produced. So for the production of methane, and here you can see the pipe. It's 300 kilometers to Weyburn oil field. Here you can see pictures of Great Plains, so the methanation plant, where they show the production of CO2. You can see here the compressors, the pipe, and this is the Weyburn facility with here the pipe and the injection facilities, and here the injection well. So this chart is the one which had been prepared at the beginning of this injection program. And so here you can see the initial forecast. And finally the injection program is quite well respected. And now it is thought that the injection can continue better than initially expected. Steve Whittaker, who is a speaker for tomorrow, or maybe the day after tomorrow, is knowledgeable about. I think you can raise your hand, Steve. Yeah. Yes, and so he provided me most information I have here. So it is so that case study can be replicable, and you can see on this chart all the CO2 pipelines which exist in the US, because the CO2 is used for EOR in many fields, and so that you have two companies in the US, the business of which is to provide CO2 to all fields. And so you can see these pipes, including this one, which is the one of our case study. So I'd like to conclude that, as we said in the beginning, cost is a key issue for CCS, and CO2 emission is a key issue for coal-to-X. So oxygen-fed coal-to-X is an opportunity for lower-cost CCS. Coal-to-X continue to develop, particularly in Asia, creating a win-win opportunity for CCS. So thank you for your attention. Grazie.